Hello, my darlings, and welcome to a new episode of After Dark Fairy Tales. I got a new one, and the title of this one is called, the original title of it is called The Night I Met Soap Sally. Now, this wonderful thriller was written by a very gifted author who goes by the name Dr. Plague, and Dr. Plague's thriller was first published on Reddit Scary Stories, and I posted the link and also Dr. Plague's profile in the description box below, so please feel free to go down and check out the rest of Dr. Plague's work and this story. I'm glad that I get to share it with you tonight, and I'm glad that Dr. Plague wants me to share it with you, and I hope you all enjoy it just as much as I did. It's a very wonderful read, and I want to give all credit to Dr. Plague and lending his talents and allowing me to interpret it and bring it forth through my narration. And I'm pretty sure you can hear it in the background. I got a little rainfall going on, so I thought I'd try something new to make things more relaxing and also make the stories add that nice little relaxing but also kind of a creepy vibe to the stories I narrate. So if you like the rainfall sound, let me know, and I'll continue it in the future videos. If you don't and you think it's too distracting, then I'll never do this again. So, are you ready to find out all about the night I met Soap Sally? Well, here we go. The snowstorm was one of epic proportions. It closed the schools for 3 weeks, right up until Christmas break. And that was when the disappearances started. Better not stay out too late, or Soap Sally will get you. My mom called to me as I went out the door to play with Rob and Terrell. I rolled my eyes at her, slipping my mittens on as I grabbed my sled from beside the door. Sure, Mom, I'll be sure to watch out for Soap Sally. That had always been Mom's little attempt to scare me as a kid. When I was younger, like 4 or 5, Mom would use it to make sure I was inside before the streetlights came on. I remember the first time she ever said it to me. The moment ingrained in my brain forever. I was heading out to play in the sandbox in my front yard. Something Dad had spent all day building on his day off. She had offhandedly told me to make sure I was in before dark because Soap Sally would take me away. I had stopped, little pail and shovel in hand, and asked her who Soap Sally was. My mother just shrugged and said it was something her mother had always said, and the two of us had used it as a kind of personal joke from then on. Better get the groceries in before dark, I would say to Mom. Soap Sally might get us. Better hurry up and take out the trash, Mom would say. I think I hear Soap Sally prowling. We'd done it so long. It had become normal. But I wasn't a baby anymore. I was 12, and I knew that Soap Sally was just some boogeyman that adults used to scare kids. He was no more real than the Wampus Cat, another of my mother's colorful stories, and I put it out of my mind as I ran to join the others. Terrell had told us that his brother had told him about a big hill near Basker's Pond. It's so steep, and when you come down it, you almost fly, he said. So I trudged through the fresh powder over the streets that no longer looked like streets at all, and I made my way towards the edge of town. My hometown isn't very big, one of those 2 stoplights and a gas station kind of places you always drive through on your way to somewhere else. There were maybe 20 kids my age in town, and our whole school was probably less than your graduating class. We knew we were living in a podunk town in the Georgia hills, and most of us dreamed of getting out after high school and doing anything but staying here. For some of us, that dream was actually realized. For others, the cemetery was all they had to look forward to. I met Terrell near Basker's Park, a small little picnic and play area that butted up against Basker's Pond. The pond wasn't huge, but it was a great place to swim and fish in the summertime and just enjoy yourself. Today, however, it was a winter wonderland of fresh snow and chilly winds. Terrell was bundled up to his eyebrows in a thick ski jacket, and his snow pants had little rolls in them that made him look a little like the Michelin Man. He too was clutching a battered old sled, and when he spoke, I could still see the air puff from his mouth. "About time. Where's Rob?" That was when we heard a loud call from up the road, and Rob came running with a banana yellow disc under his arm. He was wearing a matching ski suit and a pair of thick snow boots that seemed to be the only thing he wore that wasn't yellow. His voice cut through the sound of the wind like a foghorn, and I wondered if we were the only people in the whole town not inside right now. It was a little bit spooky, even in the middle of the day. "Took you long enough," Terrell said. "Are we ready to sled?" "If this hill is half as cool as you say it is, T, then I'm ready to sled till midnight," Rob said excitedly. With that, we set off. We had all seen the hill in question. Overlook Quest was the place to spread your blanket on the 4th of July, to watch the fireworks, or to have a picnic, or to sit and watch the boats that went fishing out there during the warm months. It offered a great view of the water, and as we trudged up it, the hill felt about twice as steep as usual. The snow made it slippery, and the three of us were laughing and pushing as we raced to the top. Terrell won, of course. Terrell was a beefy kid, and he was harder to push down than Rob, who was mostly skin and bones. He set his sled against the snow, and when he slid down, he really did seem to fly. We spent the day on the hill, sledding, snowball fighting, making snowmen, and generally enjoying the day. Blizzards like these were rare, and we had been having a lot of days like this, where we were free just to be kids and enjoy our childhood. Sometimes we linked up with other kids from school to have snowball fights or play games, but mostly it was just Terrell and Rob and me enjoying the childhood we had before it was over. We had all expected it to end when we went to high school and the dying place of childish things, but none of us could have guessed that it might be something childish that ended our innocence. I didn't notice it was getting dark until the streetlights came on and sent a dazzle of diamonds up from the snow. "Oh crap," I said. "Mom's gonna be mad if I'm late." "Oh, relax," Rob said. "It's not like we have school tomorrow. As long as you're home before bedtime, why would she care?" Rob's parents were never home, leaving him in his aunt's and grandmother's care since they worked late. Terrell and I, however, had mothers and fathers who would expect us home when the streetlights came on, and I could see Terrell shuffling nervously too. We were all poised at the top of the hill, prepared to race to the bottom, and when Rob saw our looks, he rolled his eyes and jumped. Last one to the bottom is a baby. We all jumped in, putting on a burst of speed as we tried to catch him. As we came down, I began to hear a strange sound, the rumble of something rolling down the street, the jingle of an almost merry bell, and the hum of a gravelly voice. I looked around, trying to find the source of the noise, and that's when I saw her walk under a streetlight. It was an old woman pushing a wheelbarrow or a small cart. We were heading right for her, and Rob was turned around backward so he could laugh and mug at us. "Rob," I shouted, "look out!" He turned just in time to smack face first into the cart. We swerved to stop, Terrell and I running down the hill the rest of the way. We could already see the old lady bending over him to inspect the prone boy, and under the glare of the streetlight, he looked pretty bad. There was a big gash on his forehead, and blood was leaving red streaks down his yellow ski suit. Rob was groaning when we approached, and the woman looked up at us, smiling feebly as she rose to her full height. She was as wide as she was tall, and she was nearly 6 feet tall. She wore a voluminous black dress, her hair caught in a scarf of a handkerchief that trapped it to her head. Her hands were liver-spotted, her fingers long and spidery as they sank back into her sleeves. The cart she was pushing seemed to be empty, and I figured she was on her way to pick something up when we bumped into her. There was a bell attached to it, and as Rob flopped back against it again, it tinkled merrily. "Dearie me," she said, and her voice was thin and spidery. "I didn't see you there, darling. Are you okay?" We helped Rob to his feet, but he was very shaky and hardly able to stand. I was worried that maybe he had a concussion, maybe even a broken skull, and I wanted to get him home as quickly as I could. Terrell asked the woman if we could borrow her cart, but she said she needed it later and couldn't loan it to us. "But," she said, "I will help you back to my cottage so you can call for help. I'll make you something warm to drink while you call your parents and let them know what happened. Put him in the cart now, and you can help me push him to my house." I was hesitant, but Rob groaned and wobbled then, which made up my mind. Our town was so small after all. We had never seen this old lady before. But what were the chances that she would want to hurt us? No one ever wanted to hurt us. And despite all the lessons about stranger danger, we had never even heard of anyone getting kidnapped. We loaded Rob into the wagon, the bell jingling as he slid in, and pushed it back the way she had come. As it turned out, the woman lived in the woods behind Basker's Park. The tired rumbling over the wood chips that led to her house, and Rob groaned as he was jostled in the cart. We had left our sleds behind, and we moved unburdened towards a dark little cabin at the end of the long road. It looked spooky in the night, not a candle or a light to be seen inside. "You can push him right in front of the door," she gravelled out, and as we neared, something screamed at me not to go inside the house. Common sense seemed to have reasserted itself, When I paused on the steps to the front porch, the old woman and Terrell barely noticed. As the door came open, I could smell something like wax melting, the warm aromatic smell of tallow. There were floral smells as well, and something akin to the cooking of bacon fat. There was another smell though, something that prickled the hairs on the back of my neck, a coppery smell, a wet smell, and when I took a step back, the old woman seemed to notice that I hadn't come inside. She turned in the doorway, and we made eye contact for a few seconds before she asked why I wasn't coming in. I just remembered that I thought of something, anything, and landed on a flimsy lie. My dad was coming to pick us up. If he comes to the park and we're gone, then he'll worry. So I probably need to. I had turned to go back down the cedar path, but suddenly her hand was around my wrist. I felt my breath catch as I looked down at those long, spindly fingers. The bones creaked beneath the skin, and the flesh around them was so thin that I imagined I could see those bones through the pale wrapper that surrounded them. As firm as her grip was, her skin was waxy and slick. It reminded me of nothing so much as candle wax, heated tallow, and when I looked into her face, I could see nothing human there. Her face looked like an exceptionally well-crafted mask, a mask made of human skin. "Come inside, darling," she whispered, and I could see that her mask bore too much makeup. She had really caked it on, and it made her look almost clownish. Whoever had applied it roughly. Her eyes were like black pits beneath all that dark shadow. I whispered, my dry tongue battering at chapped lips. "I just need to tell my dad where Your father can't help you now," she breathed, grinning with her mouth full of gravestone teeth. "But don't worry, you'll see him soon." She yanked my arm then, and I saw my one chance to escape. I pulled back hard and nearly toppled her from the porch, my arm slipping from her greasy grip. I was running flat out as she called angrily behind me. I didn't stop running until I reached my house. My mom was waiting for me on the porch, looking angry as I came running up. She asked what I thought I was doing out so late. She asked if I meant to meet the Soap Sally that she always joked about. She asked me if I intended to freeze to death in the snow. All those questions went unanswered. All her anger disappeared as I wrapped my arms around her and told her that some old woman had taken Terrell and Rob. She called the police, but seemed angry when she hung up. She told me that they must have thought she was someone pulling a prank. They told her that they would get right on it and that next time Soap Sally came after her to make sure that there was one less than a foot of snow on the ground. She sent me to bed, but my dreams were full of the old woman and her deep, pitiless eyes. In my dreams, she got me. In my dreams, she cackled as she peeled my skin off. I woke up the next day to hear Mom on the phone with Terrell's mother. "He came home in a state last night, said some lady had Terrell, just like I told you last night. Didn't you find anything? Okay, I'll ask him once he gets up. If he comes home, let me know, please." She hung up the phone and came to talk to me. The police came by later that day to question me. I guess they were taking the disappearance of 2 children a little more seriously now. I told them exactly what I told my mom. Rob hit his head, and the old lady had offered to help us. We put him in a cart, and she pushed him to her house. I got spooked and tried to run, but she grabbed me. I got free and ran for the house. I told my mom what had happened, but the police hadn't believed her. It seemed like they were interested in this house now and asked me to take them to it. I gave them directions, but I refused to go anywhere near it. They came back and told me that the house had been abandoned for years and asked if I was sure. I told them I was, and they said all they had found was a little bit of dried blood and a black dress that might fit a horse. They didn't believe me, that much was apparent, but they believed me after the soap arrived. I woke up one morning about a week after Rob and Terrell's disappearance, and I walked downstairs to smell of breakfast. Mom was making flapjacks and bacon, and the smell turned my stomach a little as the familiar odor assaulted my nose. To this day, the smell of hot fat makes me want to puke, and the smell of it always takes me back to that house and that day. Sweetie, could you bring the milk can from the front porch? I looked outside. The snow's 3 feet deep, Mom. I doubt the milkman ran today. Well, I heard someone on the porch a few minutes ago. They left something and did knock. See if it's the milk before it freezes, please. Sitting on the mat was a smaller wicker basket. Sitting on a bed of black cloth were square packages wrapped in wax paper. I felt my breath hitch as I saw the cloth, but tried to shake it off. What didn't remind me of the old woman in the woods these days? I reached down to pick up the package and felt the semi-solid brick of soap as it smooshed a little in my fingers. I unwrapped it, not sure who would leave soap on our doorstep, and that's when I saw the note. It was under the soaps, written in a long, spidery hand, and the words sent a shudder through me that the winter chill couldn't top. See you soon. I felt the soap slip from my numb fingers. When it hit the boards, I looked down and saw something that pushed a scream up my throat. It was a bone, a finger bone. The police told my dad that it had been Rob's finger bone, but they found trace evidence of Terrell's bones in the other bars of soap. Both their parents had received similar baskets of soap, and unfortunately, Rob's grandmother had brought it from her bathroom when the police came to check. She had been washing her hands with it all day, having no clue that she was washing her hands with her grandson's body. My own grandmother came to visit a few days later. She and Mom had a long talk about something, and I got the feeling Mom didn't want her to tell me something. As she shuffled to my room, I couldn't help but shudder as I imagined my door opening to reveal a huge woman in a black dress and shawl leering at me as she smiled her witch's grin. When my grandma knocked, I told her to come in. She sat on the bed with me and seemed to think about what she meant to say. I grew up in this town too, you know that? One night, my friend Grace and I were late coming home from a church dance. We cut through the park, and as we passed by the sign that said, "Welcome to Basker's Park," we saw an old woman who was trying to fix her cart. She asked us to help her get the cart to her house, and we obliged. No sooner had I seen her house, though. Then I got a tickling feeling. My mother had told me about Soap Sally too, and I suddenly realized what that smell was around her cart. It was tallow and lye and blood. You got really lucky, kiddo, she said, giving me a little hug as her bones creaked in just that way Soap Sally's had. Don't press that luck by being careless. She left then, and we never spoke about it again. That was 5 years ago. 5 long winters ago. The snow is back, and the days are short, but I haven't left my home after dark since that night I lost my best friends. Though I never saw her again, I knew she had seen me. Sometimes I hear the grumble of that cart, the tinkle of the bell, and it sends me running home as surely as it did that night I escaped her. My greatest fear is that she will make good on her threat one day. One day, Soap Sally may leave me on my parents' front porch. Their missing son unknowingly comes home. So, did my darlings like that one? I hope you did. Don't stay out too late or Soap Sally will get you, and she won't try to clean you either. Wow. Well, I want to give all credit to Dr. Plague for letting me narrate his story, and I hope that all of you enjoyed it. Please check out Dr. Plague's Reddit page and his other profile, and the link is in the description box. And let me know what you thought about this one in the comments. Once again, I want to thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed this one, and hope you enjoy the Rainfall too. So once again, credit Dr. Plague, and I'll be back next time with another creepy After Dark fairy tale for you. And I hope you enjoyed this one. So until then, good night, my darlings.